It's story time. I'm drinking some warm ginger tea because I'm feeling crampy. But I thought I'd tell you this story that's very recent. So here's a story about words that I failed to know for 22 years. You know how old I am? 22. So all my life, I've been hearing my parents talk to all their peers about this thing. It's a simple 3-character term. I was just always so confused about the context in which they talked about it, because it definitely had something to do with what they did for a living. My parents and almost all of their friends studied optical engineering, something like that, fiber optics. I'm still not completely sure. They were all in like the same class in college, and they all kind of went into the same industry more or less. So throughout my childhood, they would talk about semiconductors. Except there's one problem. The issue was, at some point in, I suppose, the early 90s and the 2000s, the colloquial term for a radio was the word for semiconductor. Because originally you had the big old chunky ones, and those had the normal radio word, and then at some point they started creating better radios that were smaller, and guess what they used? Oh, that's right, semiconductors. So somehow in the course of all this, it got shortened so that when you were talking about a small radio or like a modern radio, you would just use the word for semiconductor. And this was also exacerbated by the fact that I misheard this word for all of my life. So semiconductor in Chinese is 半导体. But what I heard was 半导体, which in my mind translates to something like half a brain entity. Yeah, I heard the word for head/brain instead of conduct. And the other day, my parents were just happening to talk about this industry again, and I finally caught it and asked them, hey, wait, that word, what does it mean? They said semiconductor, and I was like, oh yeah, duh, because that's what they worked with. And then as we were figuring out that mess up with the radio thing, I heard them say it a few more times, and not only have I been mishearing a word because of its colloquial meaning all my life, but I have also been mishearing what the word actually is. And like, this is the quintessential story of my relationship with words, especially in my native tongue. It's the worst. That's how that went. Now I know, and I still feel stupid about it. In other news, I also was hearing garage door wrong for a long time, but that one isn't as intense of a story, so